Okay, so we've been talking behind everyone's back, and just like she said, my biggest question will be around Jumia. So before we go into what you're doing now, let's go back to what you've done, right? So what was design like for you as the founding designer at Jumia, and how did that experience shape who you have become?
Yeah, I think I've had these questions over 1,000 times. Let me try to speak out. I had this question over 1,000 times, and there are different answers to it. For today, I'm just here to try to narrow down to answer to the best of my knowledge and what I can remember. So for me, I think it was very challenging. Yeah, it was exciting and rewarding, pretty much. And this is flashback 12, 30 to 40 years ago, when design was still at its infancy, if we want to put that into perspective. There were quite a number of setbacks, right? From tools to people to the market, pretty much. But I'm just going to take it across these three levels. People being the founding designer, and I think design, like I said, was still young then. There were quite a few people to look up to. Just really know what. So you had to dive in, try to make certain things right. Imagine people that you report to were founders with zero design background, with certain biases when it comes to how certain decisions were made. But then the opportunity I had then was uh, the founders were very open. You were as young as it, right? And um, no, we're willing to just dive in, try things out, see what works, then rinse and repeat pretty much. Uh, so we were able to try quite a number of things, and the market then was really pushy to say. Uh, the market was not accepting online. E-commerce then was more like you were doing Yahoo or 419. I remember there was a time that a customer bought an item from us and we delayed a few days, and um, he brought policemen to our office to come and arrest all of us. And I also remember when we had some colleagues, because we're working in Lekki then, so we had some neighbors. So the people always saw white people coming in, and we're always in there. We party hard in the night. Some of us go back home also in Tassen night. And the next morning, we saw innovation around, and immigration came and started questioning, doing some questioning. And on the tool side, um, I think I'm permitted to say Figma what. Like there was nothing like Figma then, right? So we had Sketch. Sketch was like the famous tool then. It was still at that infancy stage. Just imagine how today you have Figma can do pretty much almost everything. So you can do proper handovers, you can prototype and do all whatnot. But back then, we pretty much needed a couple of tools, a combination of tools to actually, it showcases, right? Designing sketch, connect stepping, then now have some other extra calls with engineers to see how things move. Then there were moments where, and in terms of gathering data, right, it was very raw, all right? Um, some of us were not, because we were thrown into the sea and we were founding designers. We have quite a number of things we were doing, right? So our data was more or less like what we see at that moment. That's what will make up it, right? It's quite a number of nuances that were there. Then the market, pretty much market was tough, right? Cause, and that's why she asked a very important question. Now, why is not Jumia the way it is today? I think being at that pioneer stage, there are a lot of things you have to give, right? We paid the price. I'll say we actually paid the price in terms of user education. And user education, as you all know, is not cheap. You have to spend millions of dollars in that. So we did that level of education online. I know people, they were, I mean, funny comments back then that if you open your pot, you see a junior high in there, right? Because we were more or less like trying to get people to come on board. So it was quite a lot. Um, so for me to just sum it off, I think it was exciting, it was challenging, it was rewarding, and I learned from it pretty much.
I really wish I could see your notes, probably research notes from, because I have a lot of research questions around Jumia and probably why the experience is what it is today. Because right now the experience is good. I'm not gonna say it's not good, right? But I would probably want to see what the experience was like. The first design, second iteration, data that was used to make the second one, data that was probably used to make the third one, and how you were able to put e-commerce in the hands of Nigerians that lack trust. So that's, maybe we can share that later.
Later, because I could go on and on.
Yeah. Okay. So a great product can make a user feel like they were thought about, right? So how do you prove soul, like prove soul as a critical feature when building? Now, I would also want you to link that to Jumia. Let's see how that can work so we can understand some of the research that you probably did earlier.
Okay, I think that's a very good question. How to connect, I mean, to be that sole part of what we design pretty much. I would say we design for soul today. And soul could be a couple of things, right? The closest I can think of is soul, in other words, is another way of saying yes, we design for feelings, right? Because feelings are prompts and props actually come back into action, right? Take for instance, I'm feeling like I need to drink water. Then I more or less like say, okay, yes, maybe I need to drink water. Then I confirm I need to drink water. Then I go into drinking water. That's pretty much the case for design you products that actually has to, right? Um, Typical approach for me, I think, is connecting with a soul, right? And I'm trying to have that reading pretty much. Connecting with a soul and who has a soul, more or less like the customer, or the user in this case, putting the user at the center of it all, right? Ensuring that there are certain measures you put in place that are more or less like you are always getting real-time data. Today, there are different ways you can do that and leveraging those data, right? We have the different research methods you can put into play. So connecting to soul, I would say one, not just connecting to soul, but soul that there are so many ways you can actually do that, but sometimes you have to strike that balance between the business soul and the customer soul pretty much. And what sells at the end of the day is what is at the middle, at the intersection of that business soul and customer soul. So how do you do that? It is pretty much identifying what would contribute to the user on the satisfaction side and enhance that feeling. Then on the business side, also ensure that sort of intersection is bringing the business to the promised land. So I think that's pretty much how got all that. And to narrow it down to how we did it back them at Jumia. Yeah, like I said, it was quite for about certain times we had to do, I mean, for some of us, we do customer care job, right? While I was still a designer about there at Junior, there were moments where, in fact, Ricky, because at that early, we were more or less like multitasking, do quite a number of things. And I think that was that raw information we're getting from the customer because some of us, we had time to sit with our customer support team, who kick calls. Some of our calls were done on GM mobile phones, right? Where to pick some of those calls, right? But once you could do that, the next step will now be for you to go and put pen to paper, jot what you can, make sense of it, then iterate as soon as possible. So in terms of starting pipelines, right? I think one we got right then were release pipelines pretty much. We knew that, okay, yes, whatever information we're getting at that point in time, we can make sense of it, turn it into something, then work towards that release pipeline. And we also had, I did a form of research that really worked for us, apart from getting all this feedback, was we had a lot of focus groups, a lot. Like we were bringing different segments, user segments, to put them to the same room, and let them test the product, etc. Then um, get your perspective on it. And I think they still do focus groups today. I don't know if anyone else from Jumia is here. Well, I think they still focus groups today. I think that really helped us a lot in terms of how things turned out.
Okay, so this is not on the card. This next question is not on the card. I think I'm just curious to know how long did the first MVP take?
Yeah. So the first MVP, like first MVP took some couple of weeks, pretty much. Um, I think it was really tough, right? Because one, we had backers then, and Rocket Internet on Post was like our backer. There were more engineers over there and back there in Germany. So we had people that were working around the clock. They were really right there working etc, iterating and trying to get the product into the market. We had backed these founders that I spoke about. And for some of us, it was really an intense moment. Imagine I was doing at Ebeda, and office was at Lekki Phase 1. I leave the office around 11:30, 12 a.m. Yeah, well, I get to Ebeda at and oh my God knows bread. Then I wake up as early as 4:30 a.m. Then I'm back on the road to the office. It was really intense. Like we paid the price. We paid the price.
I was going to ask questions around commitment, but we'll do that in the back.
I know yeah, well, I think we can spice it up, right? This entire conversation. It doesn't have to be by the book.
So I don't know what they gave to you. Sincerely, because I go to office twice weekly, and work closes by 3. Yeah, when I have to go to the office, I have to leave the office by 3. By 3:40.
Yeah.
By 3:40, max 45, I'm on my bed.
Wow.
My office is AVI. My house, Iketa. So, what did they pay you?
When we were working together, I'll probably just send you a Slack message. Billing hours. Yeah, corridor on your bed or in your bed. I move on over. So yeah, so I think back then, right? I will hinge it on passion. I was really passionate about honestly for you. You know now that you guys feel like passion is not your thing, right? I was really passionate about it, right?
Sorry for cutting short. Would it be centered around the fact that you were seeing what you were building and it mattered?
I felt actually I saw into the future. I knew this was going to be a thing. What and again to just reflect that before Jumia, I was working for another e-commerce company that actually folded. I don't know if you guys know Mocality, Loco LX,
I know.
Steelfish, and quite a number of them, right? I did work for them, right? And I actually first time I saw how things could be coming. We were looking at numbers, we were looking at Google Analytics, we were seeing how people were more or less growing. I mean, getting like the adoption of plus more or less like increasing. Then smartphone penetration was also eating. People were getting smartphones gradually. And it wasn't eating, right? It was just BlackBerry and co. And but then we saw that Chinese phones were coming into the market, and there was going to be an explosion very soon. So I was more or less like passionate and hoping to be part of that future and see what becomes of that future. And of course, there were a little bit of I didn't even know what equity was then, but it had some.
You didn't have equity.
Of course, I had a. Okay. But we didn't really make sense of it. You understand? But so I wouldn't say it was tied to because I had a few connections to labor, but it just was just purely passion.
Okay. I just know that right now, I need to define what passion is to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm very passionate about what I'm building currently at Piazza Africa.
Passion is you, right? So excited. Yeah.
I'm very passionate about what I'm building. But I just
Passion,
1:30 a.m.
passion is in phases, right? There are times that you are really passionate about what you do. There are times you are passionate about the impact that you give.
I'm passionate about both.
Yeah, there are times you are passionate about the money that comes out of that.
That's true.
That's it. So for me, it was more or less like a journey towards everything in fact. And again, back then, I would say maybe indirect passion on the money side was also there. Because
The money was in direct passion.
because yes, the money could give us the life we wanted, right? To quite a number of things, we take vacation and come back and salary will be remaining, right? Oh, but now I think most people are purely passionate about the money that comes out, impact and passion and money pretty much, and I don't blame people. Time and season, pretty much.
So I'll put not like a disclaimer, but I would say that a lot of people have suffered in the hands of product owners. And so it has made a lot of designers, not that we're not passionate about what we're building, but we're not so tied to the product. And so it's easier to just hop from one product or one company to the next. Right. And then not give out your time and energy. You do your 9 to 5, and then when it's 5 p.m., you go to club.
That's good. That's good.
So,
Yeah.
so I would just leave it there.
Yeah. So I think like I vibe with that, right? Because
You don't vibe.
you know, I vibe with that because I have this value. Everything that I go, and I think if I probably say it, a few of my designers that are here would actually know what I mean, right?
I don't
work
envy
hard-
you guys.
You work hard and you dance hard, pretty much. So I'm also for that fun part of working hard, pretty much. So if 2 a.m. is a club tempo, it's fine. But mine is if you can come in early and we do our beat as well, I think we are good to go.
Remind me not to ever be part of your sprint. Remind me. Okay, so we're building a world where we're building tools that would educate, build a generation, but it's more than a business, right? It's stewardship. How do you navigate the tension and the pressure that comes with moving fast, the responsibility that comes with it, and how do you make sure that you're building a tool that would genuinely empower and protect communities? And another question under that, what's our unique creed as African builders?
I'm going to lay on that building fast, right? Because I get this a lot, and the ability to strike that balance between building fast and building nonsense and building what makes sense is what actually makes sense. We understand. Um, yeah, so I'm always that pro. I feel like sadly, right? Because designers would all actually expect that good designs actually take time. It takes time. Yes, you need to really sit down, look at the pixels, go through the your studies properly, do all the essential documentation, etc. But I'm also of the school of thought, maybe because I've been on the business side for a while. Um, Not just the business side, well, because I see it from certain perspective. I feel like the problem we have in this part of the world needs faster solutions, right? Meaning we need to be able to create on time and deploy in the market, get data, go back to iteration, right? So yeah, good to some designers, good designs actually need time. But uh, I would pretty much say good designs can get better over time, pretty much, right? Yes, you can be lucky to get that like immediately a follow up at your first shot, but I do believe that if you, it's best that we more or less get to a place that things are more comfortable. You feel all the checklists that we have actually put on paper are more or less like checked, and we can deploy to the market, get proper feedback from the customer, which I think is more customer centric, right? Versus a situation where, yeah, there are different types of research you can actually apply to good products, right? For me, I do feel light research is always important at the early phase before you actually execute. But then research and getting feedback actually continues the moment you drop your first iteration, which I think is the most important bit of every part of the funnel. So yes, I do feel uh, good design needs time, but I'm 100% convinced that good designs become better over time. Take for instance, your first product, your first iteration can, that's why you probably see some products, you come in this month, it's looking this way, next month, it's looking a different way. Some are actually testing to just even see what really works because they are trying to gather those data. But how do you also balance that split, right? It comes from a place of negotiation and conversation. Everything is negotiable, right? It might be that your PMs are saying, yes, we need to get this out of the market. Yeah, we need to get this into the market as soon as possible. But sometimes I always try to let designers know that you need to have that conversation, negotiate. If it's something that you see that in reality is going to take 6 months to achieve or 3 months to achieve, let's break it down. What is iteration one? Okay, let's even look at the stories, right? Let's create clusters. What can become our iteration one? What can become our iteration two? What can become our iteration three? Till we finally get to a place that we have something like the bits comfortable. We have like a product that can scale and actually give the users what they need. So yes, to just round it up, good designs get better over time. I'm not in that school of perfection, right? I do believe perfection if it meets. Just get to something that is very good and very okay. We push it to the market, then we can iterate and then make it perfect over time.
You said a lot about iterations. Um, I don't know if we have like PMs in the house, but a lot of PMs will probably would need to understand the need for iterations because I have worked with most PMs that think the first design should be the final design.
Nah.
I don't know if they don't add it to the courses that they take.
Yeah.
So have you ever encountered that kind of PM wanting the first product as the final product?
Yeah. There have been scenarios like that, right? But like I said, everything is negotiable, and it starts from you putting on some shoes. There are some organizations that have design leaders that can have this conversation, these negotiations, right? Go and say, okay, yes, from top down, we approach it from a top down, top to bottom approach. Or you on your own part, in organizations where we don't have that sort of design leader, I do feel, and these are some qualities I look out for when I'm hiring, right? I do feel you don't need, there's this value I always push out there. You don't need title to be a leader, which means you have to,
The title.
you don't need a title actually, you don't need title, you have to use yourself.
The title comes with the increase the salary.
Yeah, that's sorry, that whole title salary conversation in the command. But you have to more or less like read yourself,
True.
read your environment before you get to that formality where you can actually reason on paper that you are leading etc. But what I'm trying to say is within your pods, even with organizations that have design leaders, within your pod, you have to make certain conversations. And product owners, one thing I've noticed, product owners, product managers, they are not aliens, right? Or it's just you selling that vision of what a typical process could be like. There are some organizations where you weigh whatever deliverable or task that you're going to work on with a tax. After you've gone through the entire story and everything, you see that this tax is the thing that's delivery is to deliver what you need to now do. And again, in terms of, and if you're entering into trying to test the water, you've not really gotten into that domain before. Iteration is something you have to test to get those data or understand. So it depends on who is having that conversation with your product manager and how you are able to actually convince that. Like I said, it's negotiable.
I rest my case. Okay, so still talking on research and data, there is this sudden craving to always back something by number. So you say 15% of Nigerians don't have this, 17% of this. People want to actually value everything, measure everything around numbers. So it's like a data-driven society or data-driven business environment. But how do you protect the other part of research that is qualitative? Now, this is a hunch, this is hearsay, this is just that gut feeling that you have as a design leader. How do you add that to your product to make sure that the soul of the product is not lost?
Yeah, so a lot of people, I know from the business side, people will want to back a value metrics that have numbers attached to it because that's the way you can really know if progress is happening. Like, but there are some metrics that don't even have number attached to them, pretty much, right? It's just that you trying to fully understand that, you trying to more or less know, gauge it within your own mindset to know how things are really moving. Take for instance on the people side, right? Yes, you could maybe measure efficiency, utilization, and some other things, right? Or there are some value cuts that you can't really get numbers to. You asked a very important question initially. Like what's it about passion, right? You can't really measure passion, but it's pretty much for everybody it has a different understand mean to or how you want to measure that. Take for instance, it could be a case of money that comes into your pocket, it could be the impact that happens until end of it. So some metrics are very hard to measure. So it's just you within your team knowing that you need to more or less like create that guardrail around these values or around these metrics that you think are not non-negotiable in terms of pushing them and using something that will more or less like be a powering force for your team to actually get to that next pedestal. Yes, business will want to, and again, another way you can also strike a proper balance is, I think I touched on this earlier, is finding that middle ground in terms of knowing that this everything negotiable. Find that middle ground. So you're in it, negotiating. You have to find that middle ground that these are some values that are very dear to my team. That I think we have to more or less like impute in the entire OKRs or KPIs or metrics that we have more or less like measuring. In most organizations today, most OKRs or KPIs are very product centric, but then they are not design centric. So it's left for you as a leader to find that gap and infuse some of those metrics that you think is there to you as a leader and to your team. Because I do believe there is people, there is practice, and there is business outcome. So if you are casting that value or you're casting that KPI or care that it doesn't really have that number attached to it, you can find a way to just impute it there. It's immiscible, you can try it, but then you as a leader, you are able to measure that for yourself.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go into the next thing that sort of like the last thing you said, which is design leadership, because we have like a lot of design leaders here, but we don't know about measuring them.
Yeah.
So the world has yet to fully see what design leadership looks like when it's forged entirely in the context of our market, our challenges, and our opportunities. What is the character of a design leader shaped into in Silicon Valley, but the dynamic ecosystem in Lagos, Nairobi, or Accra? How are you cultivating the next generation to own their place on the world stage with unshakable confidence?
It's a very key question.
I told Emmanuel that.
It's like Harvard standard. Well,
Crazy.
But then again, I'll try my best to.
Should I break it down?
Don't worry, I think I bet you.
What I'm trying to say is we build design leaders based on the Silicon Valley. Oh, this is what it should be. This is the height it should look like. But they are building for a totally different market. So what would a design leader in Accra? What should it be like? What should a design leader in Lagos? What are the qualities that make up this design leader? And then how are you cultivating the next generation to own their places on world stage with unshakable confidence?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think in building leaders, it's very important to understand that localization in the team, right? Especially if you are building with them across the continent, you want to understand that in as much as Africa is seen as just one destination, we have different diversities. So usually leaders need to understand the local context that pretty much exist in those markets. Um, then immersing yourself in those markets to understand how the people, the nationalities, their education, their way of life, and everything that actually must pretty much. So you can now fine tune some of this knowledge that you present from these markets into carving them into something that will work for these markets, right? And how does this apply to the global stage, right? I feel our continent has gone through a lot, right, in terms of evolution. And for me, I feel we have local context and we have like the bottom of the barrel context, right? So it gives us that sprint and that's understanding in certain markets that you get into. So internationally to say. So once you get into those markets, you will more or less like embrace you some of the shockers that are there. But then your local context gives you that extra identity to get into it, see what it is, and also apply some of it. So generally, I think you have to look at the diversity, those matters. Think localization. Then, then again, I said a few things in terms of values that as a local leader or as a leader, design leader, you need to have that set of values that you live by. Those values are like your guide towards you apply them to your team, you apply them to yourself, quite a number of things that it makes you put into perspective in order to ensure that you're not just helping yourself, you're also helping your team and also helping the African perspective.